Why did you agree to let me make this documentary about you?
Well, unfortunately, I don't know how to say no. And when a friend asks me, I normally will say yes. But in this case, I would also like to probably push ahead and tell people here we have a group of compounds, an endogenous system of major importance. It is not being used as much as it should be in the clinic. It is of great promise in the clinic. Let's try to push it forward. And maybe this film can push it forward a bit.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
So this is your daily way to work for the last, how many years?
40 years, 45 years. I moved from Rehovot to Jerusalem in 1966, a year before the war. And I've been here ever since. One of the topics that I decided to work on was the chemistry of the plant Cannabis sativa. Cannabis had been used for thousands of years, both as a drug as a recreational agent, but surprisingly, the active compound was never isolated in pure form. I decided, together with my colleague Yechiel Gaoni, to go and do research and find out what are the compounds present in cannabis, and particularly what is the active compound, active compounds present there. Well, a scientist should try to find topics of importance. And I thought that this is a topic of importance. I knew that the police have a lot of cannabis, hashish, that's being smuggled from the Lebanon, and after all the legal things were completed, they usually burn it. I was at the Weizmann Institute at that time, a very young person. I went to the director of the Weizmann Institute, the administrative director, and asked him, do you know anybody in the police who can supply hashish to us for research? So he called one of his friends, can you supply cannabis to one of our researchers? And I hear from the other side, somebody shouting, is he, meaning me, is he reliable? And the administrative director, who actually almost didn't know me, said, yes, of course he's reliable. Let him come over and pick some hashish. I went over, I didn't have a car, took a bus, got 5 kilos of hashish, went on the bus, and people in the bus after 15, 20 minutes just started asking, what the hell is this smell, very unusual smell? I mean, I had 5 kilos of hashish in my bag going around.
But I guess you're the only person in the world that took 5 kilos of hashish from the police and got away with it.
Well, probably yes. It turned out that the police were not allowed to give us cannabis. I didn't have the permit from the Ministry of Health, therefore I had broken the law and the police had broken the law and we should go to prison. Well, it doesn't work that way. I went to the Ministry of Health and some of them were colleagues of mine and the others knew what I was doing. So I said, I apologize, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Next time when I want hashish, I'll go to the ministry. If and when I needed hashish, I went to the Ministry of Health, I filled the form, I drank some coffee with them, they gave me the permit, I went with the permit every time to the police. The police, I drank some more coffee with them, and I got my hashish and went back to the lab. We started working on those 5 kilos of hashish. We didn't have a safe. It was just in one of the cupboards in the lab. Nobody really was that interested. So we started extracting it. We started using modern methods. Now, this is important. Up till the mid-60s, even before that, in order to find the structure of a compound, one had to do a lot of reactions. Then, and we were one of the first to do that in Israel, we found that by using the proper instruments, one could find the structure of compounds without doing a lot of chemistry. We put the compound on a column. It is absorbed here in the 2 or 3 compounds. This is the way we separated originally the compounds from cannabis. But that was many, many, many years ago. We separated about 10 or 12 compounds, and these compounds included the only one active compound. Active, we tested at that time in monkeys. I had a colleague who worked in a nearby institute, and he had a colony of monkeys, and he and his group indeed tested these compounds in monkeys, and surprisingly found that only one compound did anything in these monkeys. It sedated them. They didn't sleep, but they were sedated. On the basis of this particular observation, we decided there is just one active compound, and surprisingly, this is true to this very day. There is only one major active compound, which is named now delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol THC, and this compound causes essentially all the hashish type, cannabis type effects that we know so well. We wanted to see whether this compound, which acts on monkeys, acts also on humans. So we did a small experiment.
There's a wonderful story. It was many years ago about the cake, the special cake that Dalia made.
Well, that was the real testing of THC.
We had a few of our friends take 10 milligrams of pure THC on a piece of cake that my wife prepared, and 5 took only the cake without the THC, and we compared the effects. None of us had ever used cannabis before. As a matter of fact, very few people had used cannabis at that time in Israel. All those that took the THC were affected, but surprisingly, they were affected differently. Some said, well, we just feel kind of strange in a different world. We want to sit back and enjoy it. Another one said, nothing happens, but he didn't stop talking all the time. A third one said, well, nothing happens, but every 15, 20 seconds, he will burst out laughing. These effects are well known today. People are differently affected. In one case, however, one of the participants got into an anxiety state. She felt, I believe, that her psychological guards, if you wish, were breaking down, and all of a sudden she was open to everybody. So she really got into an anxiety state. In some cases, we definitely see anxiety attacks. Most do not. Most just feel kind of a little bit disoriented, maybe a little bit sedated, maybe a little bit open to discussion and socially open to whatever is being discussed.
You remember what kind of cake it was?
Well, it was a very tasty cake.
I am a research professor at the University of Mississippi. Cannabis is what I'm known for. Cannabis is a very old plant, a very old medicine, if you will, that people have used it for so many indications over the years. In the literature, marijuana has been used for all different types of things. One would say, well, this is crazy. There's no such plant that can, do all of this. And today, it's very easy to really go back to this old literature about the different indications for which marijuana was prescribed and find out that there is justification for that.
Cannabis was used in the Middle East for thousands of years.
As medicine.
Who knows, maybe for other things as well.
Many of the tribes at the time used cannabis.
Assyrians used it for medicine, used it for excitation, as used it in religion. The Egyptians used it as medicine.
Surprisingly, the Greeks and the Romans didn't know about psychoactivity, but they used cannabis as an anti-inflammatory drug. Cannabis in India was used by people who want to be delivered from all worries and care. Well, that's quite a good definition of anti-anxiety.
We knew that cannabis had been used for epilepsy.
In the past.
In the past, there is, for example, a translation of Arab story of the 15th century, and it says that one of the Arab leaders had epilepsy. Physician came over and gave him cannabis, and it cured him, but he had to take it for his entire life.